I have the privilege of introducing a man who probably needs no introduction in this room, but I know that he really likes his introductions. So, Dr. Aaron Thompson, as you know, Dr. Thompson is a passionate advocate for higher education. As a first-generation high school student and obviously college student from rural Clay County, Kentucky, he experienced firsthand the transformative power of a college credential. As president of the Kentucky Council on Postsecondary Education, he works to ensure that all Kentuckians have the opportunity to improve their lives through postsecondary education. Before taking the helm of CPE, Dr. Thompson served as interim president of Kentucky State University, CPE executive vice president and provost, and faculty member and administrator at Eastern Kentucky University. He has extensive leadership experience within the private and nonprofit sectors and is a highly sought after national speaker. Dr. Thompson has authored and co-authored numerous books and peer-reviewed publications on diversity, cultural competence, first-year experience programs, retention, and student success, among other topics. In 2019, he was inducted into the Kentucky Civil Rights Hall of Fame. Dr. Thompson received his doctoral degree in sociology from the University of Kentucky with an emphasis on organizational leadership. He earned a master's degree in industrial sociology from the University of Kentucky and a bachelor's degree in political science from Eastern Kentucky University. It has been such a great experience working with and for Dr. Thompson over the past year and a half of my tenure with CPE. He is more than just a national expert on all student success topics, which is definitely very handy, but he is also a wonderful mentor, taking time to improve, enhance, and lift up all the great work happening across Kentucky on all of our college campuses. He is really the secret sauce that makes our efforts that much more successful. He believes in something, and then there is no stopping him. He is a make it happen kind of leader, which is my favorite kind. I will turn it over to you, Dr. Thompson, to kick us off.
Yes. First of all, I have allergies. Let me just tell you that. No COVID. Lily, what about this? I mean, the collaborative, Lily, her team, wonderful. Record breaking. Let's give her a hand. Yeah. Dr. Turner, Dr. Capilouto, this is an example of Kentucky, folks. This is an example. And I'll talk a little bit about our successes here in a few minutes. And I want to tell you the things we have to worry about, the things that we need to be concentrated on, the things that we as a group have to think about in a manner that keeps moving us forward. Now, I'm going to celebrate with you a little bit, right? Because we have reasons to celebrate. But I'm also going to say that we have to do more. And we'll give you some examples of what we are doing, and we'll ask you to get engaged. One of the things that I really have to admit, and I used to be in your seat, Dr. Capilouto said 25 years in administration. That made me feel old because I've got 30 years in administration and 35 years, Jenna Vice, as a higher education person. And I will tell you that more than anything else, I'm invigorated by the knowledge, by the collaborative relationships, and really about the focus that we have in Kentucky. I get the opportunity to travel around the nation, internationally even, to talk about this sort of stuff, and I can always use Kentucky as an example, but guess what? So can they. They tell us, well, you're in Kentucky. You all got the secret sauce, someone said earlier. I like that. The secret sauce we have is that we work together on what is the most important element to all of our worlds, and that's the student. But you can't forget also about the health of our faculty and staff. You can't forget that, in fact, during some times we've had lately, COVID and other stuff, we have not felt great in many ways. And the thing that has helped us to feel even better has been the students. So let me thank you. It is important that I really say this to you, that I appreciate you. And for those who know me know that I'm not just saying that, I really believe it. Let's give ourselves a hand if we want. Okay. I will also thank James Graham Brown, who actually mainly supported the Student Success Collaborative, really doing their big first statewide effort in saying, what can they do to really push forward this agenda about helping every student, no matter what the background of that student is, where they came from, to be able to have success. Now, there's some things we know, that 90% of the jobs we have now and into the future in Kentucky, at least 90% will require a post-secondary credential of some sort. So when people say that everybody needs college, 10% maybe not. But everybody needs college. It may not be a 4-year degree, but they need college. But we've got to get on the same page with that rhetoric. We've got to talk about this in a manner that we're not ashamed to make that statement. The value proposition is needed now more than any other time in our history. And if we don't do it, we're going to lose to other people that may not know the value of this. This is not about competition between 2 and 4 years. It's not about competition between 4-year and 4-year. It's about us actually coming together to talk about this value proposition. You've seen the NAEP scores. You know, many of our students are not as prepared as they used to be. But in the past, we stepped up to the table and gave them the wraparound services they need to help them to be prepared. You heard UK talk about where they're at, even on their retention. But I will tell you, almost every 4-year institution we have in this state now is at an 80% retention rate. Who would have ever thought, right? And if it wasn't for last year, the retention rate went down, COVID, but we're bouncing back. We responded. Gaps are widening, no doubt, in P12 between our underrepresented folk, our first generation folk, but guess what? We will respond to that too. This is no longer about blaming K-12 for not giving us everybody that's already perfect for us. This is about us actually taking what we got and creating a perfect life for those and the generations to come after them. This is truly the creation, I think, of the next generation. We are that group, that cultural element, that cultural milieu that creates this understanding for not only who students are to be prepared technically for the job of the future, but to be prepared civically, to be prepared emotionally, and all those other elements. So when we talk about success, we started out a long time ago talking about just academic success. I appreciate the paradigm that was on the screen because it's all of that. We talk about the whole student. And that's the difference. For those that don't believe that mental health is a crisis, wake up. It's there. But it's been there for a long time. And I'm happy to say Kentucky was one of the first states before COVID came that we started addressing that. We started ringing the bell. I'm proud of that. I'm proud that CPE got to be the purveyor of a lot of that push. The idea that this is a time for us to not just say that students are, we don't, yes, we wring our hands. I get that. I wring my hand. But we only wring them for a minute. Then we start doing the job that we've always done. So I appreciate y'all being with us to do those things. Now I figure out how to advance stuff here. So what do we know? I mean, it was pointed out earlier. We were really on trajectory to do a lot of great things. Once again, COVID happened, but also enrollment happened. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But still, in the last 5 years, KCTCS, for an example, retention rates still went up as a whole. 3-year graduation rate, look at that, 13.6. Now, in a minute, I'm going to tell you that how many students we've lost at KCTCS, and I'm going to challenge my KCTCS partners to work with us to try to address that even. But we are making progress. Kentucky, with our data system, KY Stats in our office, we can track students now at levels we've never been able to, 50.5% of working age populations in the state of Kentucky now will have a certificate that matters in Kentucky. It may not be the average of the dollar that's made in New York and Washington, D.C., but in Kentucky, we know that they are viably working to make a living. 50.5%. We've come a long way, but we still are a long way from that 60% that we want by 2030. And that just wasn't a number that fell out of the sky. That's a number that's highly correlated, and let me be clear, the importance of what we do and who we are in higher education. You cannot have a thriving economy without having a highly educated workforce. I don't care what you do with the tax structure. Still, without a highly educated workforce, you can't have a thriving economy. And you can't have a thriving economy, a highly educated workforce without, guess what? A strong higher education system. Impossible. That's the value proposition. I can give you some other stuff. I can tell you that if you don't have a higher education certificate of some sort, I can tell you the greater likelihood of you being in jail. I can tell you the greater likelihood you'll be on unemployment. I can tell you the greater likelihood you're going to be on Medicaid. I can tell you that it will cost the state money if they don't invest in higher education. I can also tell you, though, on the return on investment, these are people we track from high school all the way 8 years later where they're at. I can tell you for every state dollar they put in higher education, they get $67 back. Not a bad deal, right? These are things you should know. So it's more than just what you're doing on campus. It's raising up a critical mass understanding and communication about how we let people know what we do matters. It matters to the student, no doubt, but it also matters to the state. And it builds a cultural value of that state, places where people want to live. So these are more than just percentage points. These are lives that matter to the overall goodness of what we do in the state. Public universities, retention rates up 0.6. Now, before last year, it was up more, right? 6-year graduation rate, up 7.4 percentage points. But I want to tell you one thing. We measure still the national average on a 6-year graduation. But I will tell you, in Kentucky, we've been focused heavily on time to degree, affordability. Our average degree now is just a little bit over 4 years. We're almost at a 4-year degree again. Isn't that great? Yeah. And that's something to say, right? You saw the graphic earlier that was shown for UK. So the idea that we're not just focused on the quantitative outputs here, we're focused on making sure that every student gets where they need to go with the lowest amount of money possible. I don't have this slide up here, but I brag about it. Since I've been in this position, our average tuition increase has been 1.3%. Just to let you know, that's way below inflation. Now, it doesn't mean we can stay there, because somehow we've got to be able to give dollars to the campus to pay their faculty and staff, right? So the idea, though, that affordability is something that we talk about, not just in spirit, but in practicality. I'm really proud of this. The National Student Clearinghouse just came out with their research that looked at all the states, excuse me, and how far we've come in completions. Look at Kentucky, folks. Let's give ourselves a hand. I won't tell you where we started a long time ago. We're way down here. This is us. You know that, right? CPE, we do what we do it well, and I'm proud of all the people who do it, but you guys are where the rubber meets the road. These percentage points aren't just percentage points. We're proud of that, but we got more work to do. If you look at our credential production, you can tell, although we've done well, we're going to continue to do well. Our enrollment is going to have an impact on this, right? It's going to have an impact. And you can see our COVID years. I'm proud to also say, though, even in the COVID years, we put another full percentage point on our educational attainment level, which was better than most states. I still don't like to say better. I want us to be #1 in everything, you know that. But we have a while to go, but we have done well. Once again, I said we're going to celebrate a little bit today before I challenge you, and hopefully you got a lot of questions for me. One of the things that I'm really, really happy about, we're also closing gaps as fast or faster than any other state in the nation. Look at this. And people say, well, you use the underrepresented category. I said, well, let's break it out so everybody knows exactly who it is. Progress of URN. African Americans up 8%. 2 or more races, which after you could categorize that, you know what they are. Basically fall in all the same categories. 58%, Hispanic, 66%. Look at that. Give yourselves a hand. Look at our graduate degrees. And let me be clear, for this state to get where it needs to go, it's more than just, you have to have the right amount of credentials below a 2-year. You have to have the right amount of 2-year. You have to have the right amount of 4 years. And yes, we need graduate level people too in this state. You understand that, right? So this is not just about us concentrating on one piece of this puzzle, because holistically speaking, for the state to grow, we're going to have to concentrate on all pieces. That means we're going to have to target what we do. We're going to have to use our strategic process in a manner that gets us there. We have to use our money in a manner that gets us there. And it's going to take every institution that we have in the state to get us there. So let me be clear. Our goal is to help every institution to thrive and not just feed a few. And that's important for you to hear. That this is about us not counting on any of our institutions to do their part. They all have to. Guess what? We're not celebrating anymore now. I'm challenging you. We are down in enrollment. 47.8% of those that are graduating from high school are going to a Kentucky college. Let me repeat that so you'll hear it. 47.8%. 5 percentage points more go to an out of state. And not all of those 48% that are left are in thriving jobs, people. So people say, well, what happened to them? Well, they all got jobs. No, they all didn't get jobs. And many got jobs that are not sustainable in their pay. Am I correct? We've got to build out this P20 paradigm system to get us where we want to go. And we've got to help P12 build that. So am I for the FAFSA bill? Heck yeah. Am I for anything that will be able to give us the kind of intervention to get where we need to go? Our Gear Up people are doing a good job in our schools from 7th grade on, but we've got to create that paradigmic understanding between our post-secondary communities and our P12 communities to work together to create that pipeline that we're going to have. But we also have lost a lot of adult learners. You're going to see us focused on that heavily coming in. We have no choice. We'll never get to 20 by 30 unless we do more with getting adult learners back engaged. We won't get where we need to go unless we get more of the P12 graduates going into college. We'll never get where we need to go unless we get more out-of-state students to stay in Kentucky. And we never get where we need to go unless we increase student success, even though we've done a good job. Those are the 4 big elements we're going to be hitting hard on. That's important. But we have gotten a whole lot out of the students that we have, but we got to have more students to get a whole lot out of what we need to have for the state to keep on going in the direction we are going to need to go. So this will be a heavy focus for us. And I don't include dual credit so you can see the real numbers. This slide speaks for itself. So does that one. Now, I'll brag a little bit again. The only population that we're up in enrollment is our underrepresented minorities. Think about that. By the way, when someone says, well, you guys are in Kentucky, we say, we know we are. Look at this, right? We're going to have to focus on all the regions of our state. I'm from Eastern Kentucky, first generation high school. Father was illiterate, mother had an 8th grade education. And guess what? We still have students that's way too much disenfranchised from their thought possibilities of going to college. We can't talk about we have good access if people don't know how to get there. You can't have opportunity unless you know you got it, right? So we're going to have to look at this in a manner that makes sense. The area we haven't done as good of a job in as we needed to is with our low-income populations. So you're going to see us focus heavily on that. By the way, we can't just get all the students that's academically prepared and culturally ready for college and still make it in Kentucky. We're going to have to get everybody, right? And so the idea that it is about how do we build those wraparound services to holistically serve the students. I can remember this conversation about food insecurities, mental health. It wasn't that long ago, just a few years ago, people said that those things aren't real. Are they real, people? Yes, they are. And finally, we got people to admit that. We were having this conversation before people thought it was real in aggregate, in mass, but it is. So when we think about serving the students, it's the social, it's the emotional, it's the mental health, behavioral, it's the cultural. Every campus should be able to set up their campus in a manner that everybody should feel welcome to come there. And yes, it's the academic. But many of our students that fail out academically are failing out because they've got other motivations, right, to fail out, other than their lack of ability to accomplish what they need to accomplish. So we're going to have to look at our wraparound services as a whole and how we do that. And I will tell you, in Kentucky, we've done a pretty good job of it, but we still have to get more. So we have to work with our legislators, our governor's office, and other folks to get more money to feed into those elements other than just the academic. You know, we talk a lot about food insecurities. There's housing insecurities. I'm going to give you some statistics here. 3 out of every 5 Kentucky high school student is economically disadvantaged. That increases to 4 out of 5 when we look at Black and Latinx students. 1 out of 5 working adults in Kentucky have incomes below the poverty line. So when we're holding up things like transcripts from people, do I need to say any more? Let's not be penny wise and pound foolish because we had some kind of crazy policy on the books for 10 years or 20 years, right? We've got to really look at what it means for us to get the return on investment that we're needing to get in. 3 out of 5 college students met criteria for 1 or more mental health problems during academic year 21. Think about that. We're going to have Dr. Okolo here in a minute talking a little bit about that. But 3 in 5. One of the things we did a while back, and I just want to call out because I know the faculty and staff worked on it, we did a lot of web-based services, we did a lot of training, and so many, hundreds and hundreds, actually thousands, went through this training to help faculty to recognize, help staff to recognize when a student was experiencing some need. And as was said earlier, not all mental health needs are exactly the same. Some are minor, and if we triage them early to get them what they need, they won't grow into anything bigger. So we're looking, once again, in a very holistic way, how we can serve, while at the same time, we want to get more mental health counselors on our campuses in addition. This is what you're going to need, KCTCS, to get us where we need to go. We need 5% more. We got that next year, right? We do. Okay, no worries. We are up in enrollment, thank goodness, this year over last year at almost all of our institutions, especially KCTCS. Right? Four-year institutions, we need 5.9%. And our private institutions, I love you, but you're a part of us too. We need it from you. We count you. I don't care where you get that degree from in this state. If they stay in this state, it's all of us, right? We've got to do better. Like I said, most of our institutions are up from last year, but over the last several years, we're still down. Let me tell you, and I got a few minutes, I think, to answer some questions, but you're going to see a lot of things coming out from us. You're going to see a lot more communications happening with us. And we're going to talk a lot about not just the technical skills that every student needs, but Janet Vice, we're going to talk a lot about the graduate profile, those big 10 essential skills, employability skills that they're going to need in order to make it. Employers have told us that's what we're going to need. That's what we're going to do. We're going to work on our healthcare pipeline, Leslie Sizemore. Some of the items that we've done with our healthcare workforce collaborative, we put 10 million into it. They have put many times more than that with 49 partnerships. You're going to see us build partnerships with our workforce to do what we need to do on the front end. I'd like to see every student by 2030, either in high school or college, have a work-based learning experience, right? You're going to see us use our dual credit much more purposefully. There's Amanda Ellis here somewhere, you know? We're going to do all those things that we need to do to get us where we need to go. And you're going to see us double down with our student success efforts to make sure we do the things that we need to do. All of these pieces cannot be done without your assistance. So we're going to ask you to do that. And before I shut up, I'll take a couple of questions if you have them. If you don't have them, I'm just going to shut up. Yes. With what kind of education? Correctional education had a meeting the other night with Secretary Harvey and the chamber and a variety of other folks. We are really trying to, Second Chance Pell and a variety of other efforts, we are now having those conversations unlike we've had. It was a vault for many years. So absolutely. By the way, it's crazy if somebody served their time that we somehow keep it. That's like not giving them a transcript, isn't it? Yeah, come on, absolutely. So we are having those discussions. I had a chance to actually have a dinner with them the other night, planning out a way that we can do more of those things. Good question. Other questions? There is discussions. I will be talking with the presidents and others about abate. Now, I get it. If somebody owes you $10,000, $5,000, that's more than a parking fine, right? I mean, I get that. But when we look at it, you know, we hold up transcripts for a lot less than that. So yeah, we'll be looking at what are reasonable ways of doing it. Each campus may come up with their own, And many are trying it already, to be honest with you. Just to be clear, every one of our campuses also now have a promise program that if you come in full Pell eligible, you can walk out without paying stuff. So all of our campuses have been innovative. I'll give you another positive for our campuses. We're one of the highest student aid states in the nation. We got our performance funding model. We get money for that. But our campuses are actually putting more aid in helping students out of their dollars than both of those two put together. So, but yes, we are. One last question. Yes. Yeah, great question. We're going to look at a holistic, Amanda Johansson, Lee Nimitz, not Melissa Bell, I called her Michelle. I mean, all of those guys are looking at how we create a holistic plan for adult learners. That's going to be a big one because it's a low-hanging fruit. Absolutely, we will be asking for money for all that. Good question. I'm going to shut up and introduce the next speaker, but I just want to let you know this. Some of the things we're celebrating today, that's you, right? I'm going to ask you not to celebrate long, though. So my charge is, let's figure out at our micro level where we're at, how we serve students to the best of our abilities. That's why you're here. I get it. Yes. No. No. No, yeah. What a great, that's Lee Nimitz, my chief of staff, who is the bane of my existence, by the way. But yeah, we will do a quick stretch break. So what I'll ask you to do at where you're at, let's figure out how we could create the kind of environment for all of our students to be successful in. Thank you very much. Let's have a 3-minute stretch break.